Hello everyone and welcome to another tutorial. In today's video I'm going to show you how to build and operate a wind turbine. So first, what you're going to need to build it is the turbine casing, which is made from 4 steel and 1 osmium ingot. Then you're going to need turbine vents, which are 4 turbine casing and 1 iron bar. Next you're going to need a turbine valve, which is like an input and output, which once again requires the turbine casing and 1 advanced control circuit. Next, the turbine rotor, that's made with 4 steel and 3 infused alloy. And then on it you will place the turbine blade, that's 4 steel and 1 infused alloy. Next is the saturation condenser, which is 4 tin ingots and 4 steel with 1 bucket. Then the pressure disperser, which is 4 steel, 4 iron bars and 1 infused alloy. Then rotational complex, which is 4 steel, 3 infused alloys and 2 advanced control circuits. And lastly, you're going to need an electromagnetic coil, which is 4 gold, 4 steel and 1 energy tablet. And now how to build it. First, you're going to have to build the base, which is any amount of odd blocks starting from 5. So you can have 5, 7, 8 and so on. Then you need to build the edges. You can have any height from 5 to 18. Then you fill it in with either the turbine casing or you can use the structure glass again, and it actually has an animation, so if you wanna see it you have to use this. Next, in the middle you put the turbine rotor and on it the turbine blade. You can just click the button one and it will automatically place it down. Next, on the rotor you will place the rotational complex and on it the electromagnetic coil. Then you surround the complex with the pressure dispersers that basically divides it into the 2 parts. Now, around the magnetic coil you can place saturating condensers, which will then turn steam back into water, which I'm going to explain how it works later. Then on the outside you place the vents, which will allow you to output or input more liquid. Then you just finish it by placing the turbine casing on top, and if you do it correctly it should do the redstone particles. See? You also want to place somewhere in here the 2 valves, one for water and the other for steam. And once you make it, you can open it and you will see this tank and some information. So first there's production, which tells you how much power it is producing. Then flow rate, which tells you how much steam you're getting. Then there's the capacity and max flow, which the max flow is how much steam you can get and the capacity is just how much it stores. Then you have this button, which will allow you to dump gas and if you want. Then if you press this button it will show you the stats, so you can see how much blocks are in the tank, how many dispersers you have, how many vents you have, how many blades and coils you have. And here you can see what's limiting you. So for example it says I can only produce 200k Fe because I have only 1 coil, but if I increase it, you can increase it by just breaking in and putting another coil next to the first one. They have to touch, they can't be like this. They have to be next to each other. So now, if I do it again, and now you can see I start generating a lot more, and the limit is actually the blades. If you want to upgrade the water output, you have to put more vents in. I also recommend getting a mod called Just Enough Mechanism Multi-Blocks that allows you to check the production and cost of a multi-block by setting the size and also how many of each block you want. So if you, for example, lower the amount of vents, you can see that it lowers the max flow rate and tells you that you will be losing water because you don't have enough. Next, you are going to need a way to create steam, which I'm going to show you now. To create steam, you're going to need a boiler. To make it, you're going to need boiler casing, which is made with 4 steel, but an iron ingot this time. Then boil valves, which is 4 boiler casing and 1 advanced control circuit. Then a superheating element, which is 4 redstone dust, 4 copper ingot and 1 steel casing. And you're also going to need the pressure dispersers from before. To make the base, you're going to need to build any rectangle shape. It doesn't even have to be perfect, you can have it be 4 by 3 or 6. It can basically be any shape you want. The base is made from boiler casing, but unlike the turbine, you can replace it with structure glass. So if you want to look at it from bottom, you can just replace it. Next, the pillars on the side, you can also make it any size you want. And then fill it with the boiler casing or the structure glass. Once you have that, you will need to once again divide it into 2 parts by using the pressure dispersers. In the bottom, you're going to have the superheating elements, which will make the water into steam, and then on the top you will store the steam. You can either just leave it like this, or if you want to have a higher capacity, you can even extend it by 1 block, and then either fill it with the glass again, or use the steel casing, boiler casing I mean. So now, if you do it correctly, it should once again emit the particles. And if you look inside, you will see 2 columns on the left and 2 on the right. First is the water tank, which will then create steam, or you can use sodium, which I'm going to show you how to make later, to heat it up and use it in the turbine. You also have temperature here, which shows you how hot it is. The hotter it is, the more steam it's producing. Here you have the boil rate, which tells you how much you boil per tick, and here is how much you will have on the max temperature. Next, you have another statistics screen. Here it can show you how much water it can store, how much steam it can store, and how much superheaters you have. Here you have the max capacity, which max boiling capacity, which is limited by the superheaters. And here you have 2 screens. This one shows you how much you currently boil, and here is how much it can be. Now, so you also have to place down some of the valves, which will allow you to output and input, but this time you're going to need the configurator. So if you shift click, it can change it to input, output steam, or output coolant. So you want one to be the output and one to be the input. So now you have to supply it with water. I'm just going to use an infinite tank here. So you use pipes to input it in there, and it should start filling up once you make it. And then you're going to need some resistive heaters. So if you power it up and then connect it, it can be connected anywhere you want. then you set the temperature, and now once you open it you can see the temperature starts to rise and eventually it should start boiling. I'm just going to increase it a bit more. So see, now it shows you how much it's boiling. Here you can see that it starts going up, although it is a lot less than it can be with the two coils. Now, once you start creating some steam, you have to put the steam into the steam turbine, which you do by using tubes. So if you connect it with the valve you have on the turbine, you can see some of the steam inside and it should start rotating. Then you just place whatever you want to store the power and connect it. And now you can see that it starts going here. You can then use the vents to pull water out of it. So if you place the tube on any of the vents, you can then grab the water from it and then bring it back to the boiler, so you don't have to make any more water. So now if I break this, I can connect these, and as you can see, the water doesn't drop anymore since it's getting water from here. You can then increase this how much you want and it will then generate a lot more power. So for example now it's generating only a little bit, but then if you increase it a lot, you can then see that it starts generating a lot. This isn't actually that big, so it isn't generating as much, but as a fun fact, I tried creating as big as I could, and if you look at it, you can see that it starts generating 2 million of FE, 20 million even. You can then store it in a matrix, which I'm going to show you how to make in the next video, since the cubes don't have that much of storage. So it requires a lot more preparation, also a lot more pipes, because the normal ones can't pull out enough water to sustain it. You also need multiple heaters. So this isn't really that efficient. You can replace the boilers with fission reactors, which I'm also going to show you in the future. And this is where I'm going to end this video. I hope you learned how to make more power. There's better ways later on, but they are a lot harder to get. So bye guys.